Training at Wildwood. Come out Thursday, September 12th for a morning training session with Chief John Yar of the Lakewood Fire Department. Chief Yar is the chief of department of the fastest growing and third largest municipality in the state of New Jersey. Come out and listen to how he is leading his dedicated members of the Lakewood Fire Department as they continually transition their department to meet the town's growing needs. Scan the QR code on your screen or find them on social media and get registered today. The New Jersey Deputy and Battalion Chiefs Association will be hosting their annual fire service seminar on Saturday, October 5th at the New Jersey City University. This year's speakers will include Chief Vincent Dunn, Chief Aaron Heller, and Chief Anthony Avillo, among many other fine firematic minds. So scan the QR code on your screen or find them on social media and get your tickets today. Hey, everybody, how are you? Welcome to run number 29 of NJ Fire Guys. We have a very special guest, very special to me. Good, close personal friend of mine when he was a fist pumping Jersey Shore guy. Chief Andrew Avantagiato. Chief Andrew Avantagiato began his career in the emergency services as a cadet in the Spotswood First Aid Squad in the year 2000. The following year, he became a junior firefighter with the Spotswood Fire Department. He quickly developed a passion for public safety and went on to work as an EMT at the VMC, Jersey City Medical Center, later getting hired on as a career EMT in Monroe Township EMS. In 2008, Vinny joined the Department of Defense, beginning his career with the Fort Monmouth Fire and Emergency Services in New Jersey. He later transferred to Fort Riley in Kansas, where he continued to enhance his skills and rose to the rank of lieutenant. In 2021, Chief Avantagiato left the Department of Defense when he was appointed Chief of Department in the City of Herington, Kansas. In his current role, he leads the department with a focus on enhancing fire safety, fostering a culture of teamwork, and ensuring the highest standards of service for his community. Chief Avantagiato's extensive experience and commitment to public safety have made him a respected leader in the fire service. Andrew also served as a member of the New Jersey EMS task force, where he filled several roles until he relocated to Kansas. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce your friend and mine, Andrew Avantagiato.
How you guys doing?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Not much.
Dude, did you like shine that a little bit today?
It's just a glare.
Okay, gotcha.
I touched it up for the podcast.
I like that. I like that. I appreciate it. I appreciate the effort. All right, man. So here it is. Tell the people where you grew up, where you started. You know what brought you to the fire service.
I was born in Union, New Jersey, and then moved down to Spotswood in like 6th grade. My parents bought a house down there. Going from a paid kind of city atmosphere to East Brunswick Spotswood area was a bit of a change, and volunteer fire was something new to me. I always took an interest in it. So that was where I grew up, graduated Spotswood High School, and started my career there with the First Aid Squad. Something to do for a year until I could join the fire department, and then kind of enjoyed it. So I stayed with EMS and fire as well.
All right.
Kind of get my start in it. My uncle was I don't know, I think I'm one of the guys that just knew when he was born and a little kid he was going to be a fireman. My uncle was a deputy chief in Irvington Fire Department, Pat Hand, and I got to spend a lot of time going to visit him, and then eventually started riding with him on the weekends and Friday nights. So I got a little taste of city fire for a little bit, even though we didn't turn many calls. So I was pretty much, they called me the charm when I was up there, because guys would make their bed at 9 in the morning because we weren't going to go anywhere. So that really got my interest into the paid fire service, and I knew what I wanted to do from a young age. So,
all right. So So what brought you into the career EMS path? Just following the stepping stone, or?
Yeah, make money. So I was able to start to get a good paying job when I was 18 years old. So started working paid EMS, making decent money, and then got hired in Jersey City. I worked Monroe per diem, worked a bunch of places per diem. Your typical young EMT works everywhere.
Make the
Had
paper.
some friends that worked the medical center, and they said you should come up and apply, and I did. That was an interesting several years. I was there about 2 years full time, and then got the job in Monroe full time. So that had better benefits, better pay, and a better pension. So I reluctantly went down to Monroe because I really loved working in the city. And Monroe turned out to be a good time when I was down there too. So you weren't in bad houses or bad neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And then
No shootings, no stabbings. Yeah.
yeah, very rare in Monroe. Um, so that kind of I hung out there and worked there until I worked part time fire someplace. I worked for Washington or Robbinsville Township for a little while, and Monroe Station 51. I worked for DM there for a little bit. So trying to get my foot in the door anywhere I could. And you asked me about the federal system.
Yeah.
I said, nope, I didn't know. And we had like 10 hours to get an application in and a resume done. So we knocked it out. And I got a random phone call one day and wound up getting hired. So that started my career in full time fire. Was at Fort Monmouth.
And that's where you started wearing a dress.
Yeah. A lot of good times that I don't always remember.
Definitely. Super Bowl parties. So what is this picture here?
Oh man, that's Irvington.
Okay.
That's me and a buddy Christian Wizik and a buddy Jason Thackera, who was a year older. He was already on Spotswood Fire. We went up and rode a 24 with them.
Okay.
So those guys were great up there in Irvington. Saturday, Sunday, they take me out, let me play with the truck and blow water and do all types of stuff with me that not everyone gets to do when they're hanging out at the firehouse. So I really owe it to them. They make sure I get my homework done, and a really good group of guys up there that got me a good start and really understood what the brotherhood in the firehouse is about, and what that firehouse life is about.
Absolutely. Definitely. And that obviously has followed you through your career. And do you remember any of those guys, or any of the names, or?
Yeah, I remember a couple of the guys. Then you put me on the spot. I'm not gonna. Mike Herman was a captain up there. John Kukalo is one of my uncle's best friends. I still talk to him on Facebook every once in a while. There's a couple other guys there that I'm not gonna remember their names off the top of my head, but anyone on that third platoon in the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, really good group of guys. So.
All right.
And big, I really got to see the way my uncle led too. He was pretty well respected in that department and held his guys to some high standards. And he was a super calm and relaxed incident commander. Watching some videos of him on fires and just seeing him act like nothing frazzled him. He's a smaller guy and wears radio mic down here and just stand there and talk the whole time. And his voice would never change. And so it really gave me a good example at a young age of what good leadership looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of set that idol for me, or that mentor for me of like, hey, I want to be that cool, calm, and collected one day. Even when it's going bad, the guys know I got their back, and I'll take care of them from the outside.
Absolutely. Definitely. It says a lot to have a leader that isn't screaming like who likes coming into a scene where the chief's a screamer. It's work, whether it's work or not, and the guy's standing there on the front lawn screaming like.
Yeah, it's just not going well.
Yeah.
You already know coming down the block that it's not going to be good when you pull up. So you're walking into a mess.
Yeah.
Not always, but typically, the control of the scene is gone. So.
Absolutely. Then we got this picture. Looks like training burn or something?
Yeah, that's at Middlesex Fire Academy. I was probably 19 or 20. That was we took an engine over there with Monroe 51 was doing the burns, and we brought an engine. There's some good guys there that day, and good guys in Monroe back then. I'm sure there still are. I just lost touch with a lot of them, but no, that was a lot of fun. I was a young lieutenant there, making mistakes. So that's that same training burn. So John Lieberwitz, good kid. Yeah, these are some oldies. I was young in all these pictures, so
I'm good at finding randoms.
yeah.
All right, so now you get on the job at Fort Monmouth. What'd you think of the federal service when you first walked in, going from, your first career firehouse? You'd worked in the career EMS side, but now you finally got to that pinnacle of where you were looking to go.
Yeah. So I didn't really know what to expect in the federal system. I knew nothing of the federal service. But walking in there to Station 2, with, Captain Paul Wynn at the time, now retired battalion chief, and Captain Siciliano, and just big, large guys, Tommy Hughes. So it was a little intimidating at first. I kind of stuck with the keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, and very welcoming. It's probably the best department I ever worked for, with some of the best guys. I got some great guys on my department now, but we're just set up differently. I don't have that firehouse life, and being at the chief level, I'm kind of disconnected from the guys a little bit. But it was a great time walking in there. There's a lot of times I say, hey, I wish I could go back and have another cigar at that table, or just try and hang out with guys when I get to New Jersey a little bit.
Yeah,
to bring
definitely.
some of that back. So, but it was a different scene. We got hired at Fort Monmouth knowing that there was an end date.
Yeah.
Like, we were terms when we got hired, and we were there for a short amount of time to fill spaces while the base was closed. But nobody acted like that anytime. Every day the guys there came to work, treated us like we weren't terms, treated us like a regular permanent guy, and taught us. Every day they taught us. If we weren't doing stuff, Captain Wynn would throw a bag of rigging at us and be like, well, build this system for me. You guys are screwing off and sitting around too much. Or, he left us at the station one day because we weren't getting ready to go up to the burn building when he said, and we were screwing around. So next thing you know, the engine pulls out the bay. So you learned some hard lessons with some of those guys too. They told you the way it was. It didn't really sugarcoat it, but it's the way it needed to be. But even the captains, they put the time into the new guys because they wanted them to be the best firemen they could, even though they knew they were leaving. And they knew that they had an end date too, whether it was retirement or going to another military installation or leaving federal service. They had a date on their heads too.
Yeah.
But it was amazing the way those guys treated us coming in there as outsiders. And I remember that. I try to instill that in guys now. Like, just, when I was at Fort Riley, just because the guys knew or from somewhere else doesn't mean you should treat them any different.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard because Riley, we were looked as outsiders for a long time.
Yeah. Well, there was you, Rich Gallo, and
Sanchez. Yeah, it wound up being 5 Jersey guys total came out to Kansas.
Oh, who else?
A guy, Valente, he didn't work at Monmouth. He was just a Jersey guy that was in the National Guard.
Okay.
And Jonathan Valente and Rob Scott.
Oh, he ended up out there?
Yep. Rob Scott and I lived together for a little while. We were roommates, so
okay.
That was some interesting days. But I was the only one that wound up staying. It took a lot to get me to figure out, but so.
Yeah, I was surprised you stayed out there, but you started shoeing horses or something, and
I have to know this whole other story how I got into that. But pretty much, like, I had some job offers and to come back, and none of them were really that good. There was just something. Either they were 17 hours away, which doesn't really put me any closer, or excuse me, like, they just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting to wait for me to do security clearances until I moved. not that I have anything that I worried about a security clearance, but if something didn't pass, I was like, what happens to my job? And they're like, you're out. I'm like, well, I'm not going to move halfway across the country to lose my job. Like, I got a job here in Kansas.
Yeah.
And just things didn't work out well. Offers didn't work out well. I think there was we had a chief at the time that I'm not a real big fan of. And I think he had a hand in that because he didn't like some other fire chiefs. There's some feuding at the chief's level. And I think he interfered with some of my transfers.
Your opportunities.
Yeah. So, like I got stuck here a little bit waiting for a good offer, and I turned some down, my choice. Really didn't like it living here, and made some friends. I started working at a bar because that's what I knew from back in Jersey. I was always around bars. I worked in bars. So trying to get some normalcy back in my life, and made some friends. And one of my friends' little sister was killed in a car accident out in western Kansas. And I had a Suburban, so I drove everyone out there for the funeral. All of our friends, there were 6 of us in this little group, and didn't really know them that well. They were more of Caitlin's friends. And getting to spend that long, 5.5 hours with people you really don't know, going to a 16-year-old's funeral, kind of opened your eyes a little bit. And then seeing a small town in western Kansas, Lakin's probably a town of 200 people, come together for a funeral. I kind of realized, like, I'm here in Kansas, hating my life every day, doing the job that I love to do, and that guys kill to get on. Guys try their whole life to get in the fire service and never get picked up career. I was like, man, who am I to be feeling like this? And I had a job offer at that time that was the security clearance issue, and I called the chief from the luncheon and said, hey, chief, I'm not coming. Told him why, and he's like, well, it kind of makes sense. He looked into it. He said, I'll call you back in an hour. And he said, yeah, you're right. That's what OPM wants you to do. And he's like, I don't blame you to gamble your job. And I said, I'm going to give Kansas a shot. So I kind of looked around and said, what would I do in Kansas that I'd never do before that I like? I was like, horses look cool. Called the lady that was looking for barn help and told her I'm a fireman. I take my work seriously. I know there's brown, black, and white ones, and I know which end the food goes in and which end the food comes out, not to walk behind them. And she brought me down there, and we talked, and I started working with horses. Ever since I came to Kansas, I just stepped in crap everywhere I went. It's been so good to me out here. It turns out that was a rehab facility. She bought injured horses off the racetrack and trained them to be hunter jumpers, ride English. So I got to do a lot of therapeutic work with horses. It was a great time. See horses go from an injury back to riding and jumping and getting sold and in competition and winning championships. That was pretty cool. I got to know the farrier, Larry Cook. He's up from a couple hours away. Really good dude, hysterical. Old salty cowboy. He's not that old, but he's older than me. And he told me one day, if you can make more money shoeing horses than you can shoveling crap in that stall. So Larry, I don't know how to shoe horses. He's like, why don't you jump in with me and I'll teach you. And Larry's probably one of the best farriers in the state. And the guys he introduced me to are some of the best farriers in the state. Championship winners. It's like anything. You have your outstars in the fire service that if you're on the fire service, you've never heard the name before. Same thing in the farrier world and horseshoe. And there's guys that are just rock stars at it. And I got hooked up with those guys. And that started me down the road of horseshoeing. Moved out to a Western ranch, got to work cattle and started learning how to train some horses a little bit and had my own little house out on the ranch. So it was pretty cool. I'd ride fire. I'd work the fire department. I'd come home. I'd ride horses and go to fires on the volunteer department.
Which I have a picture of.
Oh, man.
Blue.
Yeah. So,
you my boy, Blue.
So, that's me in the volunteer department as a newly promoted captain. We're doing a controlled burn. Or not a controlled burn, but structure fire training in a live structure. Jim Kennedy, who just made battalion chief 2 weeks ago. Wes Hill's a captain there, but now he's the chief of Fort Riley Fire Department.
Holy shit, that's Wes?
That's Wes.
Get the hell out of here.
Brian Devine, he's now a captain. And then that's Jim Kennedy's brother. And I'm going to forget his first name right now. He moved back to Maryland, and he's working Fet Fire. He just switched a couple months ago, so but he volunteers out there like Christiana Fire and one of those Maryland guys. So that was a good group right there. It was all Fort Riley guys.
I was gonna say that, dude. That doesn't look like Wes. It's got to be a mustache.
Yeah. So even the volunteer department, like before I moved out there, I started researching volunteer departments because I always volunteered, and I found a department called Blue Township just outside of Manhattan, Kansas, and I was looking on their Facebook page. I was like, man, these guys have 2 rescues. They must run a ton of wrecks. And I got out there, and their engines were called rescues. But we ran a lot of wrecks. It was a great department. Eric Ward's the chief of that department. I don't know how many years he has in emergency services, but he took that department from a wooden shed where they had to jumpstart the trucks to a volunteer department that was running ALS engines, 3 engines, a tender, 2 brush trucks, UTVs. He did amazing things at the department. And, just like I said, I stepped and crapped everywhere I go, joined the volunteer department, and wound up with someone that's a lifelong friend and a mentor. He works for Kansas Fire Service. He's another guy he's probably forgotten more than I'll ever know. So he's a great one to be able to call and ask questions to locally.
Now, so what are some of the challenges out there, whether volunteer or municipal career departments, that we don't see here in New Jersey?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world out here.
You were telling me that your department has like a 800 square mile first due area for your rescue truck.
Yeah, so our primary and secondary rescue district is right around 700 square miles. It crosses 2 counties. Our first due fire district's like 110 square miles.
And what kind of apparatus, what kind of staffing, stations?
So Kansas is completely different. I used to watch videos of guys pulling up with brush trucks to house fires and spraying water, and I'm like, man, what are these guys doing? Like, how do they not have an engine? Why aren't they wearing gear? And that's Kansas. That's my area. I have departments around here that don't have a structure engine. They just have brush trucks. They don't have structure gear. They barely have wild end gear, and they rely on mutual aid. So that's our life around here. There's departments here that have $8,000 a year budgets. In my neighborhood, $8,000 a year. The guys put fuel in their truck with their personal credit cards.
Wow.
By the time they pay for insurance and stuff like that, they're usually putting fuel in their truck with their own credit card. It's truly neighbors helping neighbors, farmers helping farmers. Your crop's on fire, your field's on fire. That's money. We look at it as grass, but that's feed for cattle. If you burn up all your grass, now you got to buy hay to feed your cattle. That's your livelihood.
Yeah.
So it's very, very different. I'm fortunate in my department. I moved down here to Herington in 2019. Met my wife. The bar that I worked in, he wound up introducing me to Jennifer. It was his wife's childhood friend, and we hit it off and ended up getting married. And so Mike, actually the bartender, his bar closed and was looking for something to do, and we got him hooked up in the fire service. He's now a driver at Manhattan Fire Department, having a really successful career. So just a random guy that took care of me. I was able to hook him up with some stuff, and he's doing a bang up job in Manhattan.
Now, is that the nearest, like, what we would know of, like, as a city near you?
Junction City is about 17 miles. That's like your typical city. Abilene's a little further. Abilene's, I don't know, probably 20 miles. That's a population of like 5,000 people. So we have some cities, but they're 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
You know, Herington's a population of 2,300 in our city limits.
Wow.
And that's a larger town for around here. So until you get to like Abilene, which is like 5,000-6,000, I think Junction City is like 17 or 25,000 now. But there's no mutual aid. There's departments in between, but it's very low mutual aid. You might only get a couple guys out of them. You might get 6 or 7 guys, but only 2 of them can wear air packs. So when we moved down here in 2019, I joined as a volunteer and quickly figured out that we had some really good firemen down here in Herington, but really poor equipment. You know, we run a ton of motor vehicle accidents, and they're using extrication tools from 1987. A little tiny set. They did stuff with Homatro tools, a small set Homatro that I didn't think you could do. You know, semi-truck extrications, and so I knew the chief, and he used to work with me at Fort Riley, and we kind of came up with a plan to start replacing equipment here in Herington. He wound up separating from the department, and that's when the job kind of opened up, and I put my application in. So,
all right. I'm actually looking for a picture to bring up. Here it is. So, what was it? About a year ago, you called me, and you were looking at your current, at the time, rescue truck was in a wreck.
Yeah, so we got really lucky. Our rescue truck was a 2007 Freightliner. Abilene has a twin to it. They were bought on a Homeland Security money, and our full-time firefighter at the time was taking it for service and went off the road, hit a bridge embankment, the guardrail on a bridge, and actually the guardrail laid down and held the tires up and kept them from rolling off the bridge, and ended up totaling the truck.
Wow.
We're lucky we didn't kill someone that day, or someone didn't die in our department, and we didn't have a line of duty, because we should have. There's no reason why that guardrail should have held that truck up the way it did.
Wow.
And unfortunately, the truck was totaled. It wasn't worth repairing the way the box was built. There was a Central States box, so Rosenbauer couldn't get the pieces, the extruded aluminum anymore. It turned into a whole mess. So our great support from our city commission, we bought a truck out of Windsor, New York, flew up to upstate New York, picked up a old International for like $15,000 just to get us by until we could figure out what insurance was doing. And when they finally decided, yeah, it's totaled, we're not going to fix it, we started looking for a replacement truck, and that tandem axle rescue came up. And it originally served in Smithville, New York, out on Long Island. They were getting a replacement, so it was for sale, and we scooped her up. I think it really changed our department a little bit. Having a walk-in rescue, so having room to carry the equipment we need, and not have everything piled on top of each other. So that was a good deal. That was a joint venture between our city and county. The county kicked in some to help pay for the difference from the insurance money.
Okay.
Because we provide rescue services to the county, and we're contracted to do it, but we don't receive any funding for it.
Okay.
The county buys our rescue trucks, and they bought new extrication tools in 2020. So they're starting to kick money in, and there's a replacement plan for that truck. It's a 2005. So,
okay.
But again, it's building those partnerships, right? Like 15 years ago, we didn't have that partnership with the county. 10 years ago, we did it. It's saying, hey, we got a problem. We can't do this job by ourselves. We can't fund this just with Herington. So building that partnership.
Now, is there any kind of county shared service or county agency or anything like that?
No. So our county, it all depends on where you're at here. Our county has 12 fire departments that service the county. Excuse me. 3 of them provide rescue services.
Okay. Now, how big is the county? Because when you say 700, 800 miles, for our listeners back here in Jersey, Monmouth County is, I think, 700 square miles roughly.
Yeah.
So put that in relation to that's his first due and secondary rescue box is the
Yeah.
size of Monmouth County.
So we got to remember that it spans 2 counties, our district. Our county is 856 square miles.
Okay.
Is Dickinson County. But we span into Morris County. And then we'll do some aid down into Marion County. We're kind of tucked in this corner of 3 counties here.
Okay.
So it's a big area. We don't have a huge population, but we have 5 state highways that run through our districts. Fast speed limits, 65-mile-an-hour speed limits on 1 lane in each direction roads. Really no shoulders with a lot of ditches and driveway entrances and field entrances that cause a lot of problems. So we see a lot of nasty rucks, not including the farm stuff that we get into. People tangled up in the implements. And
I didn't even think about the machinery and domestic entrapment, industrial entrapment.
Yeah. So, I mean, that adds a whole nother dynamic to it. The farm rescue that we see.
Now, what kind of staffing, what kind of equipment do you have in Herington? Give us a little rundown of your department.
Yeah. So I'm really lucky right now. I have 2 full-time staff. I just hired a part-timer, and we're going to be getting a 3rd full-timer here coming soon.
Okay.
I have 27 volunteers, which 20 of them are pretty solid. You always have some of your older guys that only come out for the big ones and guys that work a lot.
Okay.
So I got a good 20 solid, but 27 on the rolls. We're running 2 volunteer assistant chiefs, 7 captains right now, and then the rest are firefighters.
Okay.
We do a junior firefighter program. We just brought on 2 junior firefighters.
Okay.
So we have the heavy rescue you saw. We run 2 engines, commercial engines. We just got an AFG grant. The truck was delivered last February for a tender.
I actually have a.
Yep. So that's a truck it replaced, sitting next to it.
That looks like about a 1960, 1970.
Yeah, it's a 1967 IH International Harvester. It was a semi truck at one time, and then it was department built with an ag tank.
Okay.
It was taken out of service a couple years before that, and only used on very limited basis.
Okay.
So we were able to get an AFG grant to replace that, and that was a big win for us because we were missing a lot of water.
Yeah. Now, what kind of water supply do you have out there? Do you have hydrants? Do you have cisterns?
So in town is we're hydrated in the city limits, and then everything out there isn't. It's rural water. South of us in Marion County, they're doing some cool things. They're picking up railroad tankers and burying 30,000-gallon tanks under the ground and putting them throughout the county.
Okay.
So you could go and refill off these 30,000-gallon tanks in the ground, which is pretty cool. They're all hooked up to wells, so they automatically start filling themselves.
Oh wow! Okay.
They're full all the time, and you can just draft right out of them. So we do get into rural water supply quite a bit. Same thing with our grass fires. A grass fire for us, a good grass fire is 100 acres. We get into some 400 or 500 acre, 600 acre grass fires. That's a good fire for us.
I got another. A couple pictures. I'm trying to bring one up right now.
Yeah, I couldn't find some of the good ones I was going to send you. Yeah, so this we went last year. So they're starting wildland task forces in the state.
Okay.
We started one in the county here, and we were having conversations in Riley County, Potawatomi County and Riley County had a large fire. This was like day 3 of the fire. And we were talking to the chief up there. We have a regional chiefs meeting that we have quarterly, and we just meet and just talk about our issues. So we get to know each other, building those partnerships.
Yeah.
So I called them. It was like day 3 of their fire. No, they've had multiple fires, and kind of talked to the assistant chief like, hey, what do you need? You guys just need guys to come sit in a firehouse so you guys don't have to answer the pager? He's like, well, we could use some brush trucks for the overnight. So we put a quick task force together, ragtag group. We want to go to a mutual aid fire with the task force before that in Geary County. then came back, regrouped, and went to Riley County and worked that fire overnight. They lost one home in that fire. They did a hell of a job not to lose any more. So that was a lot of river slash up there from the floods, the slash piles that were burning and kept breaking out on them and running through grass. So they had a handful up there.
So what is the story here?
So this is away games, right? So
every chief loves an away game.
Yeah. So I'm really lucky. I got 2 assistant chiefs. Jim Roberts. He was on the department for 51 years and was diagnosed with cancer. He was a career fireman at Fort Riley for a little while, and then went to PW for the rest of his career because it was better for his family. But they didn't expect him to make it, and he beat it.
Oof, thank God.
And when I come on as chief, I kind of looked at our rankings and I said, yeah, we need a safety officer. And called Jim up and said, hey, you want to come back? I need a safety officer. And we had some conversations, and he said, well, give it 3 months. If I like doing it, I'll tell you. And if you like me doing it, you tell me, and we'll keep it going, and we'll just keep reevaluating it. Well, that was about 3 years ago now. And he's still there being a thorn in my side. But you can't beat a guy that's got 54, 55 years of knowledge in the fire service.
Yeah.
Leo Slazer is my other assistant chief, and he's been on the department, I think, 30 years. Another good, solid guy, and they're older guys. So when we go mutual aid, I could let one of them be with the incident commander from that other city, have that trust and faith that I have no worries.
Yeah.
And then I can go play.
You mean work?
Yeah.
Work.
I took fire chief's job at 36. I wasn't ready to be off a truck.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some away game pictures, and I think there's another picture that you got of me on a roof and stuff, and that's an in-town fire. I got a great daytime response, but some days we're late.
Is that this one?
Yep. So that day was almost 100 degrees. It was early in the season. We weren't ready for heat. No one was acclimated to it, and we had 2 guys one guy almost passed out and wound up going to the ambulance and getting treated on that fire. And there's Jim in the white shirt. That's Jim Roberts. And,
okay.
Be able to pass command to him and go help the guys out because we're shorthanded and make the best use of our manpower. And then when we're done, transfer it back and let me finish it up. So it's really nice to have depth in your line that you can trust and not have concerns about, because it makes your job easier as a fire chief.
Absolutely. I
don't have to worry about a call. If I go out of town on a weekend, I don't have to worry about what's going to happen in Herington. The guy's got it.
Yeah. That's good.
So that's a really good feeling.
And then that all comes back to this right here, being right next to your guys, training with your guys, and building.
So this is actually so I keep bringing up partnerships, building partnerships. So we got this door on a grant. We got a donation made to the department through a local grant. And we said, yeah, we got it. Why am I going to keep a door prop in my department? So I send this thing all over the area.
Okay.
Some departments will come pick it up. Sometimes they want me to come out and I'll help them do the training. So this is Council Grove Fire Department, and working on forcible entry door evolutions. So I say, building those partnerships are key. Getting to know the guys in their firehouse at one of their training nights instead of 3 o'clock in the morning on a front lawn. You have that trust in that department then. Hey, they know what they're doing, or their limitations. Maybe they can only do outside firefighting. I'm not going to expect them to go interior.
Yeah.
So
well, and they and their officers now have that familiarity with you coming in with the white helmet on, and where maybe they don't have a chief showing up or they don't have an officer showing up, and now they know, hey, this guy's all right. He knows what he's doing. Let him, maybe I will let somebody else run the ball game at my show,
Yeah. And same thing for me. If we're all dedicated to working on the scene, because maybe it's a bad wreck and we're short staffed. So, I'm hauling cribbing or there's some other fire chiefs in the area that I could trust to come up and, hey, you got command. I'm going to take operations. We did that Monday when we had entrapment Monday morning, and it was in Rescue One's first due. We were second due to it, and he was committed to, it was a bad entrapment, really tangled up, and I took command. He dealt with the operations, and it just works really well. When you have those partnerships and you know each other, you don't even have to talk. Like, I know, hey, you're busy, I'll do this. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And I mean, that goes back to, like you said, at Fort Monmouth, our officers built us that way. Our captains built us that way. Our chiefs built us that way. That you and I could have. I was on A shift most of my time there. You were on B shift, but you and I could push down the hallway and work together today, and seamlessly work together today.
Yeah,
because we were trained.
I've been really fortunate to have some really good chiefs and captains, and I've been fortunate enough to have some really bad ones. I didn't feel I was fortunate at the time to have a bad captain in the front seat or a bad chief of the department, because it's miserable. It's just not a good day. It's not a good shift. But looking back now, I've learned how much I realized and learned what not to do and how not to treat people. It's just as valuable as having a good leader that teaches you stuff. Looking back on a bad one, you're like, man, I never want to do that to my guys.
Yeah,
I'm not going to treat them that way.
Definitely.
So.
Definitely. All right, so we're rolling along. What do you have? What do you have on the horizon for Herington? What do you have coming up? Anything in the planning?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So we talked about the Wildland Task Force. We're getting into the Wildland Task Force game. We'll probably we are a lead agency in that.
Now, does Kansas is Kansas forest fire or whatever set up like New Jersey's forest fire services, or
no? So Kansas Forest Service has gone miles in the last 5 to 10 years from where they were.
Okay.
Mark Neely, who was our they call them Battalion 3, the Wildland Battalion.
Okay.
At Fort Riley, he worked for conservation. He was in charge of all the prescribed burning and all the wildland stuff.
Okay.
He left Fort Riley and went to Kansas Forest Fire Service, and really got them the funding they needed and transformed the way they did things. Now they have district fire management officers, DFMOs. They ride around in pickup trucks. They don't have brush trucks that come out. They have support vehicles.
Okay.
But now every region has someone they can call. When we get a bad fire, early on, it was about a month and a half after I took the job here, fire season just started. We're red flag days. We get called to a neighboring county, and the dispatch said, large grass fire, no county departments are responding. Oh, okay. Like, we got 60-mile-an-hour winds today. Like, it's going to get interesting. Leave town and you can see a good column. And I'm like, all right, we got a good fire. And I turn south to head to it. It's about 15 miles from me. And I see 2 columns. And I about quit. I was like, this was a dumb idea. Why do I want to be a fire chief? I could be napping right now at Fort Riley on my lunch nap. But knowing that, hey, I have a DFMO and it's Eric Ward is my DMFO that I know as a volunteer. I work with him for years. I can say, hey, Eric, I got 2 large fires. There's nobody responding. There's no mutual aid available. I need aircraft. And I swore I'd never call for aircraft in Kansas. I'm like, man, I need airplanes now. And that reassuring voice of, all right, we'll get resources coming to you. Let us know when you get there exactly what you have. And being able to reach out to those people at Kansas Forestry makes a huge difference. When they show up and they can take air ops or take a division from you, it's really awesome. So it takes a lot to get a crew out from them, but you can get some DFMOs pretty fast.
Okay.
They started pre-staging on red flag days. They might pre-stage crews throughout the state and bring in out-of-state task forces, or bring a task force from another area of the county or the state to cover yours that may not be red flag.
Okay.
So they've done leaps and bounds. Aviation was non-existent 5 years ago in Kansas. and now we're using it regularly. So
Wow, that's wild.
Kansas forestry's done amazing, but it's very different than like New Jersey forestry,
Yeah,
the way they're set up. So
definitely. All right.
we joined. So there's USAR task forces throughout the state, kind of like it kind of reminds me a lot of the Metro Strike teams from New Jersey.
Okay.
So all of the regional task forces make up Kansas Task Force One.
Okay.
So our homeland, it's broken up by Homeland Security regions. So our region, they opened up the invitation for some more departments to join Task Force 8 for USAR. So we were one of the 4 departments that was asked to join that.
Okay.
So we got guys working on USAR stuff now, which is only making us better locally.
Okay. Now, do you guys get a lot of I wanted to say hurricanes, tornadoes in your area?
Yeah, we've had some come close. 2 years ago, one blew right past my house and pushed my garage doors in and stuff. But there's a lot of ground between towns here.
Yeah.
So, and they tend not to be as strong, but we do. Chapman in our county has been hit twice. We do get them. So what really hammers us is straight line winds that come from these storms. Really hit us hard. So, but tornadoes are a threat. I take a tornado over a hurricane any day.
Yeah. Well, you're not getting the flooding.
Yeah, and it comes and goes in 3 minutes is past your house. It's somebody else's problem. You're not getting hammered by winds for days as winds come in, right? So it comes and it goes. The hail is pretty bad, so you get some hail damage. I got a new roof because of it, but so yeah, tornadoes are all part of it. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to live in Kansas because of tornadoes. Yeah, but you live in Jersey, you get hurricanes.
Yeah.
You got a better chance of getting robbed walking down the street in New Jersey than I guarantee you do in Kansas. So the threats are different. It just depends what you're used to. So,
especially now.
So we got some of that USAR coming up. We're becoming a leading agency in training in the region.
Okay.
I had an early talk with the officer and I said, I don't want this to be the best department in Herington because there's only one. I want to be the best department in the county. I want to be the best department in the region. Regionally, I want departments to look up to us and say, hey, I need help, Herington. Can you do this for me? And I think we're moving that direction. And be humble about it too. Just because we have better equipment than another department or we got better firemen doesn't mean we have to showboat it or tell it to them. A lot of guys know. They're driving a 1970 engine and we're pulling up in a tandem axle rescue. Or they have homemade brush trucks and we just bought another new brush truck. But just showing up and saying, hey, what do you need? What can we do for you?
Now, is there a way that I mean, you're familiar with New Jersey, born and raised, you still have a lot of friends out here. That we sometimes get rid of things that don't need to be getting rid of. Is there a way that departments out here can help departments out by you with equipment that may not meet our standards here in Jersey, but be able to help you guys?
Yeah. So if there's departments that have a good amount of equipment and you could hold on to and I could line up a trip back, I'll go pick up equipment. We have a donation program through Kansas Forest Fire Service that some of the big dollar departments out in like Kansas City metro area, they turn in a lot of good equipment and it can go back out to other departments. So we pass on a lot of stuff, extra wildland gear, our old extrication equipment got donated. So, we're not a real rich department in Herington. We don't have a huge budget, but we try and help out as much as we can because we've gotten some help from other departments too. So we don't sell a lot of stuff. We pass it along to the others, but, Terry Farrell Foundation out on Long Island does a lot of good stuff like that. There's a couple guys that travel, but if there's a good grab, I'll travel to get it. And it doesn't have to be for me. It could be for a neighboring department that I know they need something.
Yeah. And on your way back east, you can get some of that. What's that meat? It looks like
pork roll.
There you go.
So, yeah, pork roll's hard to find out here. You can find it sometimes, but it's scarce. So no, I'm always good. I'm always up for a trip back to Jersey, get some pizza and get a pork roll and cheese sandwich, and maybe an Italian hot dog or something.
Nice. I like it. All right, so I gotta say, it's like a Wyatt Earp mustache. Like you don't have you got to get the cowboy bend on the helmet.
Yeah. There's a little bit there. So, yeah, the mustache said I grew my beard out. I was off of Fort Riley for like 3-4 weeks on vacation and didn't shave. And my sister told me that you better shave before my wedding. And I said, well, that's a year from now. So I can't grow a beard, but I can sure as hell grow a mustache. And it just kind of stuck from there.
So, man, I just so many questions. What what is like the grass fires? Is that the biggest thing for you guys? Like the building construction. What's the building construction like? Compared to back here?
Yeah, so it's old. So Herington's kind of a unique place. It was a major train depot or train station for Rock Island Railroad. It was also a World War II air base. And at their height, they were over 8,000 people in Herington. In the early 90s, Rock Island closed, and Herington lost half their population when the railroad closed. Union Pacific came in and hired a lot of people back. Yeah, it's at their downtown. It still looks like that today.
Wow.
A lot of vacant buildings. Herington didn't have codes, or they didn't really adopt a code. They just had some city ordinances.
Okay.
Until like 2015, 2016, they adopted formal codes. But in the county, there is no codes. You can build whatever you want. We have a code for driveway entrances, and we have a code for lagoons and septic systems.
Lagoons?
Yep, septic system. Instead of going in a tank, it goes out into a pond. But like I built, when I got my house down here, we did a large renovation, and the way we loaned, it needed inspected through HUD. And the guy's like, you can't have a railing, a banister only on one side of your stairs with no spindles. He's like, it's against code. I was like, what code, man? I can put a banister in however I want. There's no codes in the county. And he was a little shocked at that. But that's true. There's a lot of towns and county houses that are built without codes.
Wow.
You can do whatever you want. So
that's insane.
That it gets interesting when you're looking at some of these old houses or even some new construction that may not have code enforcement inspecting them.
Well, so now, how do you approach that as an incident commander?
Look at your risk. So good 360s, rock solid 360s. When your safety officer gets there, he does another 360. When you get an officer that isn't immediately tied into something or dedicated, do another 360 so you're not missing anything.
Wow.
I almost did it. That fire with the chainsaw, me cutting the wall. I did my 360s. I saw a cistern, an old water cistern next to the house. It had a piece of plywood on it. They already did quite a bit of work on that side of the house before we got there.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, concrete, plywood on top, or it looks like it has a concrete cap. We're good. And I didn't say anything about it. Well, that piece of OSB was the only thing covering that cistern, and one of my guys fell in. Luckily, he caught himself. He injured his shoulder, but I missed that. It would have taken me 2 more seconds to lift that plywood up and confirm whether we had an open cistern or it was concrete and sealed.
Wow.
So just really paying attention, like still learning those lessons that, hey, we make mistakes. And my safety officer said the same thing. He's like, I saw the cistern, but I thought it was covered. It would have taken us each 2 more seconds, and we almost really hurt a guy because of it.
Yeah.
But so it's just doing, repeated 360s, really paying attention, asking people the people that live there, if you can, about their house. And
yeah.
So.
But like you said, there's a lot of vacants in Herington. So, I mean.
Yeah, we have a ton of vacants. Luckily for some reason, we don't see a lot of fires in our vacants.
Okay.
We have occasionally, but most of our fires are in occupied dwellings.
What kind of call volume runs to worker kind of thing?
Yeah, so this year is a little odd for us. We're going to see 160 to 175 call increase this year. Most of those are medical first responder.
Okay.
But we're having an odd structure fire. We've had 11 working fires this year.
Wow.
So our numbers are cut off. I don't know what's going to happen. Our car wrecks are way down. We're usually over 30 car wrecks by this time this year, and we're at like 17, which isn't a bad thing to be down on car wrecks.
No, not at all.
Grass fires, we had almost no grass fire season. We only went to like 5 or 6 grass fires. We're usually 20 to 30 grass fires.
Now, was it like weather? Was it more humid than usual, or more rain than usual, or?
No, we had a lot of red flag days. We had a lot of rain late in the season, which caused a fast green up. But we had a lot of high wind days, and that initiates burn bans.
Okay.
A lot of farmers burn their fields out here. We're in native prairie land, so it's burned its entire existence. Lightning strike would burn millions of acres until it rained, and so that grass needs to burn out to keep the weeds out and keep the grass healthy. So we do a lot of controlled burning or prescribed fire, and so do a lot of farmers. But when we have a lot of high wind days and we ban them, they can't do those burns. And we see a lot of fires 2, 3, 4 days later. After someone does a burn, they got a tree limb or a stump caught fire, and it throws some embers up. So we're being more proactive with our burn bans too. Like, hey, if tomorrow's a red flag day, we're going to burn you. We're going to ban you today. So I think some proactive control has kind of helped with the amount of fires we're seeing.
Okay.
And not just our department, throughout the county that's taking that approach.
That's good. I mean, especially with the little help and little equipment that you guys have out there.
So we had a hospital in town. It closed suddenly. It was grossly mismanaged and went bankrupt. And that closed like November, October of last year. And like January 1 hit, and just the EMS runs started coming in.
Wow.
So we got real busy.
Now, where's your nearest hospital now? And and I was actually going to ask, what do you guys do for EMS transport and stuff?
So it's a county-based EMS paid service, paramedic level service. They're really well put together. Junction City, so 20 to 30 minutes, you could get to 3 or 4 hospitals. Okay. We didn't have a great hospital. It didn't provide a lot of services, but it was a good place to get someone stabilized and then airlift them out. Yeah. So, we're 52 minutes to the closest level 2 trauma center, an hour and 45 by ground to the closest level 1. Wow. So we fly a lot. Okay. So
that's wild.
And not just like your traumatic calls. We'll fly heart attack, strokes. We're flying our medicals too.
And I mean, that's, again, coming from New Jersey, where, parts of New Jersey, you can throw a rock from one hospital to another.
Yeah, but, like I talk to people about this. Even where I grew up in Spotswood, it's 20 minutes to New Brunswick without traffic. So, so there's a lot of parts of the country that are really populated that don't have a hospital 2 minutes from their door.
Yeah. So, I think our record from Monroe to Robert Wood, New Brunswick, what was that, like 16 minutes, 17 minutes, and an ambulance door?
So, yeah. So, man, sometimes you got to get there.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
So sometimes it's time to go to work and get the job done. And that's something I say to my guys, like, hey, sometimes we just need to get the job done. Yeah. And I think they kind of like that because they know when it's time to go to work, like it's time to go to work. So
now, what you said you have 2 full-timers. What kind do they work one on, one off, 24s, or are they Monday through Friday?
Now, so it's just Monday through Friday. Me and McKenna, she's our full-timer right now. Okay. We work Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30. We're getting another one. Code enforcement was given to me 3 weeks ago. So I will be taking over code enforcement for the city, and that's going to afford me another position. Having a good city manager and good backing from your commission is important. And
Okay.
I'll say it again, building that partnership with your commissioners. So when you're asking for something, you have their support and they know you just don't want the new fancy tool. I think it's important to have that relationship with them.
Absolutely.
So that position is going to get hired as a firefighter, not as a code enforcement officer anymore. So we'll split the city up. Instead of one person doing it, 3 of us will do code enforcement. So it takes the caseload off a little bit.
Okay.
Gets me another firefighter. And then we'll probably go on some type of rotating schedule so we have weekend coverage.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm fortunate. Good.
No, go ahead.
I'll say I'm fortunate with my manpower. I have 9 guys that work for the city. So when we get a daytime call, our daytime response is faster than a night response because they work right down the street from the fire station.
Yeah.
So I'm super lucky with my staffing. Super lucky.
Okay. I forget what I was going to ask. Oh, that's what so downtown, like do you have like a commercial district, or, do you have any kind of like nightclubs or nightlife or anything like that?
Yeah. So we got 2 bars in town. One is opened on Main Street now. It's Broadway is our main drag through town. Broadway and Main Street is like the old, you can see the road is still real wide from back when it was the old West. Really wide downtown area. A lot of, not a lot, but some taxpayer buildings, and a lot of buildings that used to be taxpayers. They're vacant upstairs now, but they still have businesses on the first floor.
Okay.
Limestone construction, shared walls. We're talking late. The town was founded in 1887, and most of those buildings were built in the next 10 to 15 years. So late 1800, early 1900 construction. Some of them are in really poor shape. I think that's where our code enforcement and our pre-planning comes in to identify those buildings.
Yeah.
We see a lot of hoarder conditions down in this area. I think there's a lot of people that have suffered loss in either jobs or family, and that's their comfort. So we see a lot of hoarder conditions down here.
Okay.
Which kind of surprised me. So,
now, where's your nearest mutual aid coming from?
So Hope Fire District 2 is 7 miles from us. They're a pretty good department. They have some guys that can go interior. Woodbine is about 12 miles. They have like 1 or 2 guys that go interior.
Okay.
Good group of guys. But if I need a ladder truck, I'm waiting 35 minutes for a ladder truck to come.
Wow.
So it's coming from Junction or Abilene or Enterprise has a ladder. So my first I don't have ladder trucks. It's going to have to be a large downtown fire for me to add in a ladder truck.
That's wild.
So if someone's got one they want to sell cheap or donate, I got a home for it.
I love it. And at the end of the show, I will, if you have a website or an email address or something, for you or whoever, for people that would like to or have the means to direct equipment out that way, please, I will, for our listeners, I will put that in the show notes and post it on our, the outside vent pages.
Yeah, you got my work phone. I think you got my work email. Just share that, so it's public. People call me all hours of the night, so just share those. But there's a lot of departments that are in need that we don't realize, and I didn't realize it until I moved to Kansas. So
yeah, it's amazing to think, like, the Terry Farrell Foundation does great things. Some of these other groups do great things, collecting equipment and sending it overseas. Peru, Brazil, Colombia. There's a lot of and I never even thought about it until, I started talking to you out there in Kansas, and you're like, there's a lot of departments out here that don't have anything.
Yeah. I'm not saying that they don't need help, those engines in those other countries, but I got a department around here that's running a 67 as their first new engine.
Yeah.
And that's their pride piece, and they take good care of it, but It's a 67 engine.
That's crazy.
They kill for a 1980 Han or something like that.
Yeah. And think about it. Back east, we have collectors that have, enough apparatus to make their own fire departments.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it sits in a barn or a warehouse or something.
Yeah. So there's definitely a need in our own country to support a lot of fire departments. It's different too. Like there's no training requirement out here. You show up to the firehouse, they'll give you a pager and a shirt, and you're a fireman now. So there's no minimum training requirements. It's whatever you set for your department. So
wow.
It's just really different. A lot of places, and I used to bash them on Facebook or YouTube when I'd watch videos. Man, look at these idiots. It's truly all they have.
Yeah.
They're out there in Carhartt coveralls and because it's cold out, and that's all they have to stay warm while they try and save that house or save that barn and livestock.
It's wild. It
really is. They don't want to do the job. It's just they don't have the means.
Yeah. Now, if you get a member in, where's like the nearest fire academy? How often they run a Fire One program or something like that?
So there's a couple ways. Kansas Fire Rescue Institute does all the credentialing in the state. You could do self-study. So you could read the book, go up there and take the written test, and then show up to a testing site. I've had guys do that. We've tried to do some hybrid classes, and the hybrid just doesn't work. Guys can't sit and watch somebody talk from 2 hours away on a computer screen every night and learn something. Maybe some guys can, but that's not the way a lot of firemen don't learn like that.
Yeah.
So Hutchinson Community College has a really good program. You can go down there for 2 weeks, and there's some online that you do ahead of time, and then it's 2 straight weeks of hands-on and testing. And you come out with Fire 1, Fire 2, ops awareness, vehicle extrication after those 2 weeks. So that's where I said my full-time staff goes down there to get certified.
Okay.
But most of it's in-house. So we have a probie sheet that we put together. It's minimum a year. If you don't get it done, we just extend you. We don't hammer guys. Like we want them to be understand and well trained, as opposed to kicked out the door and get off probation, or just kicked out the door.
Yeah.
So we want to train good firemen that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, but it's all in-house training.
That's wild. So I mean, really, I kick it around a lot with some of my guests, and this new OSHA standard. Like I see that you're big with the State Fire Chiefs Association out in Kansas. What are you guys? What are they talking about with this?
So our stance isn't just against it, because we could be safer. We could do things better. There's pictures on there of me with no safety glasses on running a saw. Like I could do better. We could all do better and probably be safer about our jobs. But the new OSHA stuff, it's going to force 2 things. And I don't think I'm unique about it. It's going to force it's going to cost lives with like the 2 in 2 out stuff. And you can't do a search unless it's, verified that there's a victim inside. So you're going to cost civilians. And we're putting civilians above ourselves. And I'm not saying you need to go die or kill yourself over, the fully involved house fire trying to make a grab. But we signed up for this job knowing that it's inherently dangerous. Like we could get hurt or, God forbid, killed doing this job. I have a hard time putting myself above others, because that's the oath and that's what I said I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've done for hundreds of years in the fire service.
100%.
So it's going to force chiefs to make that decision and be like, hey, I'm going to stick by OSHA. And Kansas isn't an OSHA state. We have Kansas Department of Labor, and they came back and said, we will enforce we're not going to inspect to it, but if something happens, we will enforce the OSHA regulations. We'll adopt it and enforce it. So it's going to make chiefs say, you know what? I'm not taking that risk. We're going to follow it because it's law. And I think you see a lot less proactive firefighting and a lot more reactive.
Yeah.
Or you're going to face fire departments close their doors.
Yeah.
They're just not going to do it. They got $8,000 a year. They got a 1967 engine, and you're telling them that they can't have a truck older than 15 years?
Yeah.
Like most of my trucks are over than 15 years. I'm running a 1972 Deuce and a half as a brush truck. So it's a solid truck. It's safe. It's fine. But you're telling me I got to replace all those trucks at how much of a truck now? $600,000 for a basic engine, nothing fancy. $13,000 for a brush truck. It's going to cost me millions. We don't have it. So I'm just going to be non-compliant. That's the other option. Guys are going to go out, do their jobs, hope that nothing happens, and be non-compliant.
Yeah.
And if something happens, well, you're gonna take it. So, and I think you're going to put more stress on your larger departments that are more proactive, because we're going to see small departments close, and we're going to absorb that district, because
yep.
Whether we absorb it as primary or the call us mutual aid, we're still going.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to turn down a mutual aid if we're available.
And it just makes it that more or that less safe when you get there. Yeah, 5,
absolutely.
10, 20 minutes later.
It's like the whole RIT conversation. I don't have necessarily always have enough manpower to dedicate a RIT team. I'd love to. I don't have mutual aid coming that can do a RIT team or understand RIT. So our RIT practices, and this is probably going to be a sore subject on some guys, and I'll probably get looked at, but our RIT practices that the tools and equipment get set in front of the engine, the first new engine, and they're staged there. If we have extra manpower, we'll start assigning guys to the RIT. But if you're looking at statistics that most RITs are handled by themselves or other companies working in the fire, we believe that if we could put the faster we put the fire out, the safer it makes it for everybody. So we stage the equipment and dedicate manpower to putting the fire out.
Absolutely.
If I had 20 guys standing outside, like in New Jersey, we'd have a RIT team on every fire. But I don't have 30 shepherds out there waiting to try and get a piece of the action when the first crew comes out. I'll never see that. If I see 20 guys on a fire, we got a large, that's a really good turnout.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and just even like the response, seasonal response. If it's harvest season, my numbers are down because guys are farming and harvesting crops. If it's planting season, they're out planting, so they're going to be delayed. They got to get in their tractor, drive to wherever the truck is, and then drive from the field into the station. So even our seasonal, our response varies based on seasons.
Wow.
Which was a new concept. Scheduling training.
Yeah. Like the things, and you think about it, 100 years ago in New Jersey, in central Jersey alone, that was a thing in Freehold, the town I grew up in.
Yep.
1920s, it was all farmland, outside of the downtown area. And, we got fat, rich, and happy. And fortunately, a lot of areas that's not the thing anymore, but there are places out there in central, middle America where you guys still deal with that. And we don't even, we think our problems are big out here.
Yeah. And even some guys have to decide, like, hey, I got hay on the ground and it's going to rain tomorrow. I got to bale hay. Like, I can't go to the fire call because if I don't bale the hay and it gets wet, I'm going to lose protein from my cattle.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of decisions like that. Like, their livelihood might come first at odd times.
Yeah.
So.
Now, do you guys have like any like I am responding system or something like that if somebody's coming or?
Yeah, so we used to use I am responding, and then the county bought into Active 911 and paid for it through dispatch. So we've switched over to Active 911. Our department's really proactive with it.
Okay.
It all depends on your department what you do with it, but yeah, we're running Active 911, and then we're looking at some other new software here coming up soon. So replace our emergency reporting.
All right.
So
all right, excellent. Do you have anything like anything else you want to touch on or?
No, and just firefighting is really different out here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's a different world than most guys know. I encourage guys. I open the offer all the time. If you want to come out in the spring and run some wildfire and do some prescribed fire, there's always a seat available. springtime, end of winter, spring is our busy season, and I think guys can learn a lot seeing the different world.
And
Just as much I'd love to
learn some appreciation for what we
I'd
have.
love to get some guys back in Jersey to do a ride along or something, and kind of see what East Coast firefighting is like. So
yeah, that would be awesome.
I miss some of the guys, but it's really nice life out here in Kansas, and I got a great group of guys. I tell them they make me look good and make my job easy. So I get some congratulations sometimes, and it's not me doing it.
Yeah,
I might write something on paper or say something, but you could say all you want as a chief, but if you don't have good firemen, nothing's
exactly.
getting done.
Exactly.
They make me look good every day.
So yeah, I mean, so when was it out in Kansas that, like, what was the incident or what was the scenario where you were like, holy shit?
Oh, that was that big grass fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, going down, that fire, I think we ended that day at a little over 3,000 acres.
Wow.
And the fire traveled, I think, 16 miles before we got a handle on it.
Wow.
So we wound up, that county's departments wound up responding. A lot of their trucks don't have radios. So they actually had trucks on the fire when I pulled up. They just didn't have radios in the truck to communicate that they were there. They didn't have any way to fill their trucks from their department. They use a garden hose to fill their trucks. No hydrants. So they were pretty much out of water until we got a tender there. Otherwise, they were going back to fill the garden hose. But good firemen, they got it whipped up. Eventually we had some aircraft come in to help with resources, and so that was a long day, and some eye opening. I didn't make all the best decisions. I learned a lot that day. I'm still learning. I'll learn every day in this job. The day I stop, I'll probably retire. So
that's pretty much.
Just because it says chief doesn't mean that I'm immune to mistakes and I don't make them. So
the key is to earn them, own them, and learn from them.
Yep.
And I mean, we both know that I've made mistakes. All right, so if you got nothing else, we'll get into the Jersey questions, I call them.
Yeah.
The first one we kind of touched on a little bit already. Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
It's pork roll. Taylor ham's a company. Pork roll's a product.
Thank you. He hasn't forgotten. Best pizza?
Man, I don't know anymore. Anything on the East Coast is better than Kansas pizza. We got one or two places about an hour and a half from here that makes a pretty decent pie, but man, I'd go for anything Jersey pizza wise. So even some of the places in my hometown have closed now, and so I don't even know what's still around that I could say is good.
Pete and Elda's still around.
Yeah, it's been a long
time. When you were here, did you go to the beach or you go down the shore?
Oh, it's down the shore.
Down the shore. And I remember we used to go to Belmar.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Belmar House is where it's
at. Does Central Jersey really exist?
Oh yeah, I'm from there.
All right, so now where did you draw your lines? Like your northern border, your southern border?
I would probably say north of Monmouth County, and I don't know, maybe like that Rahway area. A little bit into Union, south of Union. It's a narrow strip, I would say.
All right.
So
you're saying Monmouth County, South Jersey?
It's beach. Monmouth County's got beaches. It's South Jersey.
What?
And they got pine barrens in Monmouth County.
In Monmouth? No. Ocean County, yes.
There's pine trees in Monmouth County.
We had pine trees, not pine barrens.
Oh, it's pretty much pine barrens.
All right. That's
South Jersey.
It's your lines.
Maybe not eastern Monmouth, but definitely western Monmouth.
Oh, yeah. Well, totally different people. All right. Who are or were some of your mentors?
Man, I'd probably say my biggest one was my uncle.
Okay.
Growing up, I spent not a lot of days, but I got a cat jumping up on the table.
Cats are evil.
Hold on a second. I didn't spend a lot of days with him, but I spent enough days over enough years that he really set that leadership. He was a deputy chief for a long time in Irvington. A lot of fires under his belt. So it's probably my biggest mentor is my uncle. Some of the guys at Monmouth, Captain Sis, Chief Wind, I could go on. Kegley, Parker, Tommy Hughes, some of those guys, and I'm leaving some out. I can't remember names right now, but just a lot of that department, the culture in there and the leadership tactics, man, were just solid. It was solid every day.
Yeah.
So,
I tell people all the time, I'm like, that's the only place guys couldn't wait to get overtime or get a swap. Have somebody ask them, hey, can you work a swap for me? Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, you didn't want to go
guys
home.
Didn't want to, especially us. Like we were the terms. We didn't want to go home.
So, I think I worked 21 days straight one time with overtime because we were short.
I think my record was 13.
Yeah, it was just Tommy Hughes. I don't know how many days. I think he spent 2 months there at one time. So it was just a great place to be, and you're always training, always trying to get better.
Yeah. And we were all friends. We were all young. We were all dumb. We were all, out back smoking, playing basketball. The time we built the igloo in that bad snowstorm on Christmas.
So it was just a good time. But some of those guys are definitely leaders and mentors.
Absolutely. So. What is your proudest accomplishment on the job?
Man, I don't know. There's probably a lot of them. I'm proud of my department right now.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest win right now is getting the guys the equipment they need to do their job, and getting them the training that they need to learn how to do their job safer and better.
Yeah.
That's my biggest accomplishment, hands down. So.
I like that. I like that.
And like I said, I owe it to them. You can offer all the training classes you want, but if your guys don't buy into it, it's nothing. If they don't show up for the training, well, what are you doing? I told them a while. I was like, look, there's a method to my madness. Just stick with me. just stick with the idea, and you'll see it. And a couple times, like, oh man, that really worked. So, and I'm not inventing anything new. I'm listening to guys that have way more knowledge than me. Watching some podcasts or reading some articles or just having conversations at Chiefs conferences. We're doing these regional Chiefs meetings in the state. Chad, the state president, is doing a great job. He's a solid dude. He's the chief of Andover Fire Department, which borders Wichita. He started these regional Chiefs meetings, and quarterly they move. We do a local one within our couple counties, and then this is a state. They call it the round table. And I walked into my first one, and I sat down with the chief of Sedgwick County, which is where Wichita is, the Lawrence Douglas fire chief, which Lawrence is a huge department, the Hayes fire chief, some really big names and some really big departments. And I'm listening to them talk, and they're like, I got a $55 million referendum that I'm trying to get pushed. And I'm like, man, I won't see $55 million my whole career if I combine all my budgets. And but realizing that they have the same issues. Mine is a $5,000 problem. Theirs is a $55 million problem.
Yeah.
And the guys are humbled about it. Like, they allow you to give input and have conversation, even though you're small town Herington. You still have a voice, and you might have a good idea, even though you're small town. So linking up with those guys has been huge, and having that asset in your pocket to call somebody. Again, it's that partnership. And you could call someone on a chief like that at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday and run something by him. That's solid.
Absolutely. And that's even out east. Like, it's everywhere. I see a lot of guys, like I go to a lot of conferences and classes and seminars and stuff like that, and you just you know me, I don't shut up. And I'm not afraid to talk to somebody. You know what? That guy puts his bunker gear on the same way I do. You know, he rides his fire truck just he likes going to fires just like I do.
Yeah.
So no matter who it was, Chief John Norman from FDNY, or you know, Mike Champo, lieutenant just retired from FDNY. Guys look at me, they're like, "You, you're, yeah, he's a guy like me. He's a fire. He likes going to fires."
Yep.
And you take that chance and you get to talking, and you know what? You realize that he's just another fireman that likes going to fires and likes sharing knowledge. And
Mike Prone with that forcible entry door.
Mhm.
I called him.
Oh,
I
yeah.
called up the shop to get a status on a ship date, and he answered the phone. And we talked for 45 minutes. I was driving down the road and I was going to hit a dead spot, and I pulled over on the shoulder. I was like, man, how often am I going to talk to a guy like that? And great guy to talk to. All types of information he threw out at me. I couldn't write it down quick enough if I tried.
Yeah.
But yeah, those conversations are just those awesome to have.
Absolutely. And I mean, the guys that I've had on my podcast, and the people, the guys and women that I've had on my podcast and that are coming up, great. It's easy to talk to. I've had a few people that after the show they've gone and they're like, you know what, I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous about it, but it didn't. At the end of it, they're like, I didn't feel like we talked for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Or holy shit, we were on here for an hour and a half, and because when you're talking, it's that firehouse, mentality, that firehouse culture that just we connect.
Yeah.
Um,
Firemen are firemen, no matter where they're in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's why the ones that aren't firemen stand out.
Yeah.
All right, man. So, like I said, what do you got going on? Are you coming back east at all anytime soon, or?
I'm not sure. We got a couple of trips. I think I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it back next year.
Okay.
I took 4 trips last year between picking up trucks and a family vacation. So we'll probably do some family stuff this year. I think down Florida, we're gonna do some stuff like that. So I don't think I'll be making it to Jersey this year.
All right.
So probably next year we'll probably look to come down. You never know though. I'm salary and work too much, so I always get time off.
Nice.
I have time in the bank. I don't get the time off, but I got time in the bank. So
yeah. Now, do you respond back? Obviously, you respond back after hours, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm like a full-time volunteer, so it's pretty cool. Again, I get that I don't have to go to everything. I can respond to what I want to, and having officers and good chiefs below me, I don't have to worry about that. If I don't want to go to that gas at 2 a.m, I can look at after 911 and be like, oh, all right, Leo's responding. He'll take care of it for me. The assistant chiefs actually approached me last month and said, hey, you're working too much. You need time off on the weekends. So let's do some duty officer stuff. Let's rotate taking call on the weekends. So we're putting a program together that there's 2 assistant chiefs and 4 of my captains are going to stay taking a car home on the weekends. And they're going to be the duty officer. So now I don't have to worry about anything. If a burn permit comes in, because we issue burn permits for the burning debris and stuff, they'll take care of it. If it's nonsense calls or low calls, I wouldn't say nonsense, but low end calls, I don't have to worry about it. They'll take care of it. And then if it's something bigger, or if it sounds like something I should go to, I can sign on and go. But that goes back to having that good department that you can trust and building those members up to take those leadership roles, and it'll keep progressing. Those younger captains that are willing to give it a try, they'll get some command experience now. They'll be the first arriving truck to a fire alarm, and you got smoke showing when you pull up. You're like, oh shit! Have those clenching moments.
Yeah.
before they move up to a chief level. So building that depth in your line and your department, I think, is important.
Definitely. Absolutely.
And that'll allow that.
All right, so I got one more picture for you.
Yeah.
Are you still Vinny out there?
Oh yeah, that name stuck with me from Monmouth. Most of the people in town don't even know me as Andrew. I'm just Vinny now. So
that's awesome.
A simple nickname 15 years ago in the firehouse has now followed me, where most of the citizens don't know me as Andrew.
Because nobody could say your damn last name.
So I'm Vinny the fire chief.
So, well, that's a good thing if the the U.S. Marshals are ever looking for you, Wyatt Earp or whatever. He's like, hey, have you seen Andrew Avantagiato? And they're gonna be like, no, nope.
Who are you talking about?
That's why you're out there. You're witness protection.
Oh man, I get that so much. So.
All right, brother. I'm gonna put you in the backstage area. I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, and then we'll say our goodbyes off air.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's good conversation.
All right, man. Definitely, always. All right, everybody. That wraps up run number 29 with Chief Andrew Avantagiato, better known as Vinny, of the Herington City Fire Department in Kansas. Got another great show coming up next week, and stay safe, everybody. Thanks. Check us out. Like and subscribe.